First, the USDA's Justice for All non-discriminatory statement, which simply states that all persons must be treated equally without regard to their race, color, national origin, sex, religious creed, disability, age, political beliefs, or reprisal or retaliation for prior civil rights activity, and that our institution provides an inclusive space for all. For more information on the And Justice for All statement, please visit the USDA's website.
All right, good afternoon everyone. Hello and welcome to our cooking demo. My name is Theo Banks and I'm a nutrition educator at Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Camden County with the Department of Family and Community Health Sciences. Today we're going to be making curtido, which is a Salvadorian shredded cabbage dish that is commonly served as a side with pupusas or tacos. And we picked this recipe because it is the Jersey Taste Harvest of the Month. So each Wednesday this month, we're going to be bringing you a different recipe using Jersey fresh cabbage. And cabbage is a cool weather crop that can keep growing well into fall. And so you can keep an eye out for Jersey fresh cabbage at your grocery store. So the ingredients today are 1 head of cabbage, which I've gone ahead and chopped, and then 2 small carrots grated, and 1 small onion that's been diced. 2 things that I'm adding to this recipe are some jalapeno peppers and some cilantro as well. And one good thing about the cilantro is a lot of people, when they're preparing cilantro, they'll remove the stems, they'll discard them, but the stems are actually really flavorful. So one thing I did is I'm going to be using a lot of the stems in this recipe, and then I saved some of the leaves to put as a topping on the tacos that I'm going to make with it. So what else? For seasonings, we have a little bit of sugar, not a ton, just a teaspoon of salt as well, have some red pepper flakes, and have some oregano as well. The recipe called for 1 teaspoon of olive oil, but vegetable oil or a neutral oil is a little bit more traditional for this dish, so I'm going with the vegetable oil today. And then the last ingredient is just a 1/4 cup of vinegar. It's going to, lightly add some acid to this recipe. It's not going to taste fully pickled, but it's going to actually make the cabbage and all the ingredients a little bit more tender as well. So this is a really nice tangy topping to put on top of tacos, and as you can see here, there are a lot of tasty veggies and seasonings in it as well. So how to assemble this? The first step is to blanch the cabbage. And so blanching is just to submerge the cabbage in boiling water for a very short amount of time. It's just going to soften it up a little bit. It's not going to fully cook it. So I blanched it by putting it in boiling water for 1 minute. I was moving it around constantly during the process. And then I quickly, as soon as 1 minute was up, I took it out of the boiling water. I took it out of the hot pan and put it into a different bowl so that it would stop cooking and that it wouldn't overcook. The goal is, again, not to cook it thoroughly, but just to soften it up a little bit. And the other thing that's going to soften it up is the vinegar. Once the vinegar has been added and everything has a chance to sit in your refrigerator for a few hours, that's going to soften everything up as well. So after we blanch our cabbage and we let it sit and cool off, all you got to do is combine everything. This recipe is super simple and super straightforward. So I am adding my carrots, adding my onion, adding my peppers, going to add the cilantro as well. Going to add all my seasonings, my oil, and the vinegar. And then I'm just going to mix everything thoroughly. Make sure all the seasonings get absorbed. Make sure all the vinegar gets absorbed. But this is a very, very easy, very straightforward process. And so from here, what you would want to do is ideally give this recipe a lot of time to sit in the refrigerator, let it chill. The longer you give all of the seasonings and the vinegar time to be absorbed, the more flavor this dish is going to have. So this is a really great dish to prepare a day or two ahead of time if you're able to. It goes well with kind of like a meal plan if you're going to have tacos or a dish like that for multiple nights a week. If you can make this in advance, it's going to give plenty of time for all the flavors to absorb, and it's going to be even tastier. So this is it. This is good to go. As I said, we would ideally want to give it time to set in the fridge, but I'm going to show you in a bit how I would prepare this and how I would plate it as well. But before we get into that, let's talk about how we can turn this meal into a My Plate meal. So we like to talk about how we can use My Plate to make healthy, balanced recipes that have all of the food groups in them. In today's recipe, as we can see, it has a lot of veggies, which is great. It's pretty much all veggies, which is fantastic. So we know we want our plate to be filled halfway with fruits and vegetables. So if you would have a 1 cup portion of this curtido, that could easily be your serving of vegetables right there, which is great. And so say we want to add a grain to this meal. I would add a couple things. I would serve it on top of a corn tortilla, and I might even add some brown rice as well. And both the corn tortilla and the brown rice, those are both examples of whole grains, so it's going to be adding fiber to the meal, which is good for our digestive system, and it's also going to make it a really filling and satisfying meal as well. But just be aware of the fact that you're doubling up on your grains. You're adding 2 different grains to this recipe, and try and use smaller portion sizes as a result of that. And then in terms of protein, we could do a couple different things. You could add a lean protein source, one that's low in fat. You could pick a lean meat like chicken or fish or shrimp. But I think this is a really good opportunity to use a plant-based source of protein instead. So I would serve this potentially with some black beans or pinto beans, or even lentils, which are one of my favorites. Lentil tacos are fantastic. And what I did today was I'm serving this with some pureed beans, kind of like refried beans, but lower in fat. And that is going to be the grains and protein on my tacos. And then I'm going to top it with the curtido, which is my veggies. I might put a little queso fresco or some other type of shredded cheese on there. I would get a dairy source in. And so that's 4 of the 5 food groups right there, which is fantastic. Only thing you can do better is if you rounded it out and added some fruit in there. You could have a side of cut fruit with your meal, or you could have it as a dessert option. Either of those would be great options and would get you to 5 out of 5 food groups on my plate, which would be a healthy and balanced meal. Just be sure as you're plating all of this and you're coming up with your meal plans to try and observe the portion sizes that you see here. So the veggies should be taking up 1/4 of our plate in addition to the fruits. If we're not having fruit, veggies should be half of our plate, and the protein should be less than 1/4 of our plate, and the grains should be only a little bit more than 1/4 of the plate as well. Just try and keep this in mind. It is a really helpful tool to figuring out healthy portion sizes and how to create healthy, balanced meals. All right, so let's go ahead and serve this up now. I've shown you the taco that I prepared for myself using brown rice and a corn tortilla and some refried beans. I would probably heat this up ahead of time, and then I would top it with the curtido. That's already looking really good. I might put a little bit of hot sauce on top of there, and then that would be good to go. This is probably gonna be my dinner tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, so thank you to everyone who joined in for our cooking demo today. I hope you try this recipe at home. This recipe will be posted in the comments on this video, and you can find it on our page afterwards as well. We will be back next Wednesday for another cabbage cooking demo. Next week, we're going to be making a really hearty winter garden vegetable soup that also has cabbage in it. Really looking forward to that one. So thank you, and I will see you next week.